Hey, what's up everybody? Alf here with a little bit of a different style video today. No GBL battles for you to enjoy, but we're going to talk a little bit about this upcoming Go Battle Day. We have another. It's coming this Sunday, February 6th. We're talking a little bit about Ultra League Premier, and I'm going to give you essentially a handful of Pokemon that I think might spice up your day. Go Battle Days can be exhausting. My advice, if you have not played them or if you've played them before and don't really have a handle on them, just play as much as you want. Don't feel like you have to play all your battles. Ultra League, especially for Go Battle Day, some of these battles can go pretty long. So keep that in mind. Do consider the fact that you have a lot of battles to play. So teams that are exceptionally bulky, and in particular open Ultra League teams, maybe not your best choice if you want to maximize the number of games you get in the day. But we're going to show you a few different Pokemon that I think really fit in nicely. And if you want to spice up your day, some Pokemon that you can utilize for some really interesting stuff. So why don't we dive into it? So my first core breaker pick I'm on that I think is performing vastly better than the rankings would indicate is one you're probably familiar with if you've been watching the channel for the last week and a half, and that's Charizard, specifically the wing attack variant. Now, the cons of wing attack Charizard are, well, they're well known. You're gonna need an elite TM. A fast elite TM is the only way you're gonna get yourself a wing attack Charizard, and depending on if you've got a blast burn or a kick around, you may in fact need to burn 2. I had to burn 2 to get wing attack blast burn. You can run overheat, and in fact overheat in some cases may even be better. It actually hits a little bit harder. It just unfortunately comes with a debuff, which means that you're sometimes forced out of matchups that you would like to stay in after landing that move. This is particularly true with Wall Rain, where you can threaten Wall Rain. Blast Burn does a chunk of damage, as would Overheat, but in all cases you're gonna have to stay in that fight to finish it off, and being debuffed there is actually not very good for you. Wing Attack Charizard does a couple really good things on Go Battle Day specifically. One, it really mucks up any double counter and any double charm teams you may see. You may know from previous Go Battle Days, people do look at some of those gimmicky strategies, right? The strategies where they don't have to think too terribly hard about what they're doing. And in these formats, multiple charmers, multiple counter users both look pretty good, and Charizard's pretty good against both of them. One of the reasons it doesn't necessarily look great in the rankings is that it's still on Fire Spin there. So something to keep in mind. It's a great Pokemon. It beats Trevenant fairly cleanly. It beats Wall Rain sometimes. It can threaten it, is probably a better way to put it. But ultimately, if you have access to a wing attack Charizard, it can be quite good. It also will perform better against all of the various fire types. Technically, the highest ranked fire type by ranking is Blaziken, and wing attack Charizard is going to be pretty darn good against it. So if you've got one, this is my pick. This is a mon I've used quite a lot. It's very, very dangerous, and provided you can keep it away from Swampert and Lapras, which are 2 of its biggest threats available, it's going to be great for you. Let's take a look at some other options, though. All right, so my actual sort of sleeper pick for the best, most irritating Pokemon that you may want to find a spot for in your team is Kantomuk. I don't know, everyone has a Kantomuk built. Kantomuk does not rank that highly in the format based on the rankings, but once again, I don't think the rankings here account for the way that this format plays. Now, Kantomuk does something pretty spectacular. It blanks basically all of the counter users. It's very good against them. Some of them have charge moves that can hit you, but resisting counter is a big deal. But after that, it also packs super effective charge moves against both Wall Rain and Trevenant, something that very few Pokemon can do. So if you can get this locked in against their counter user, say they safe swap a counter user and you generate some extra energy, farm them down, make sure that they die, you can really threaten their backline if they're running that core. Thunder Punch also quite good against flyers, which there are a few, something like a Crobat or a Charizard, which I just talked about. Thunder Punch also very good against some of the other water types that come in. Now, you're not very good against Swampert. You may have noticed multiple mons I've shown you so far are going to struggle against Swampert. And if the meta corrects during the day and we start to see Swamperts come in, that's when things get dicey. Now, the problem is Swampert's not very good against Wall Rain or Trevenant. So it ends up just being a little bit of give and take. But if you're seeing a lot of Wall Rain Trev cores, Muck is going to do it. Also, as I sort of mentioned, I think you probably are likely to encounter double charm and double counter teams. And guess what? Muck is great against both of those teams. It's going to do excellent work. And for example, if they're doing double charm or double counter with one of the main meta players in the lead, Muck's going to farm down that charmer, and then their lead mon is going to probably still be threatened, which is very, very good. So if you don't have one, it is worth investing in. I do think its best place it's really ever been is in this current Master League, or no, sorry, Ultra League Premier Classic format. So you don't need to invest necessarily in an XL one, but it is definitely worth considering. I mentioned you may want to go fast in this format. So why don't we take a look at the mon that, in my opinion, defines going fast in Ultra League. All right, so my third pick for a Pokemon that might be a nice choice here on Go Battle Day, like I said, we're going fast, and that's Gengar. Gengar is extremely squishy. You probably know this if you've ever played with it or against it. However, it hits like an absolute truck. Now in this format, I think the only thing that's a given is that you're going to be on Shadow Claw and Shadow Punch. That's the baseline for your moveset. That will allow you to put on a lot of pressure against most mons, allow you to beat Trevenant fairly easily, and deal quite a bit of damage very quickly. I do like Gengar in the lead, primarily because it tends to outpace anything and everything it will run into. Also, and we'll get to this when we talk to second moves, it tends to struggle a little bit against two Pokemon that I have seen in this meta, one of which is a very common safe swap, and that is Snorlax. Now, there's a couple things you can do. Snorlax and Obstagoon are the two Pokemon that the straight-up Ghost moveset doesn't really work against. Generally speaking, with Gengar, I think its best moveset is Shadow Punch, Shadow Ball. It tends to give it its best neutral fights. However, that does leave you a little bit weak to those types. In fact, by a little bit weak, I mean you're absolutely blanked by both of them. So I do think that Sludge Bomb or Focus Blast is probably viable here. I would personally choose Sludge Bomb, primarily because those matchups are not great anyway. And Sludge Bomb has some added utility and is a little bit faster than Focus Blast. It does take quite a bit to get to Focus Blast, and I do think you can cause yourself some issues with those. It is worth noting with Gengar, there's a couple fun little playstyle things you should consider. One is, even if you don't have Focus Blast, you should play like you do. So make sure you have your move counts correct, and make sure against a Snorlax or an Obstagoon that you are at least pretending to throw it the first time. You may get a shield in a matchup where they probably shouldn't, just out of caution, and that does allow you potentially to find some advantage elsewhere. The second, and one of my favorite tactics with Gengar, is that Gengar is going to win CMP over almost any Pokemon that you run into in Ultra League Premier Classic, which means that if you can get your Gengar out with a charge move and set up a scenario where the game comes down to they need the health there, Gengar is going to win CMP. So if you can find yourself in a position where it's beneficial for you to get to a Shadow Punch or another charge move and duck out and play a matchup out to try and get a shield, you may just simply win the game because of Gengar's attack stat. So do consider that. It's really very good against a number of the mons we see. Any counter user not named Obstagoon, it's pretty good. It does struggle a little bit against Gallade because of the super effective confusion damage. However, they're taking super effective fast move and Shadow Punch damage as well, so it's a little bit of mutual assured destruction there. But ultimately, it's very good against those. It's very good against Charmers. You've noticed, once again, I've picked essentially a mon that will trouble double charm and double counter teams. So you kind of have a feeling that that's sort of what I imagine we're going to see as sort of the gimmicky teams during this Go Battle Day. Now, I haven't really touched on one typing that I do think has picked up quite a bit of steam as of late. So why don't we take a look at the best available electric type. I know that generally Magnazone is one of those Pokemon that I don't tend to rate particularly highly, even when it's high in the rankings, but this is a place that I actually do sort of agree with where it's ranked. Now, as opposed to the other electric types, Magnazone picks up a steel typing, which can be a liability, but more often than not against the core of the meta is actually kind of a boon. The steel typing gives you a resistance to ice moves. So taking, say, an icicle spear from Walrein, not a big deal. A resistance to grass moves. So Trevenant needs to be shadow balling you, as well as a resistance to charm, which is pretty nice. It also gives you a nice poison resistance, although you struggle against some of the poison types that have a ground typing, like, say, a Nidoqueen. But either way, it makes the Magnazone pretty hard to farm down. Now, the one thing you have to know about Magnazone is it doesn't really love a fair fight. Magnazone is not a Pokemon that you want to just sit in there and play the one shield straight up going straight wild charge. That is not really what it does. It is very bait dependent. It's very high risk reward. It's a Pokemon that benefits immensely from being on a team where you can afford to give up switch advantage after throwing 1 or 2 wild charges if the matchup lends itself. Now, the Shadow is preferred because of the fact that a lot of its wins are heavily dependent on landing a wild charge, and the Shadow simply does more damage in those scenarios. A regular one is totally fine, but I do think that it's worth considering what Magnazone can bring to your team, much like Gengar as well. If you're looking to go fast, Magnazone has a very similar play style where it's very flimsy, it's going to die, but you're going to get into those scenarios where it's simply you land a charge move or they land a charge move, and the winner is you for being stronger. So I do think it's a Pokemon that you may want to sneak on your team. I do think electric types are a little bit underrated here. The number of viable ground types is fairly low, and while yes, it's not good against the counter users, it's not really looking like it's gonna be great against Blaziken, and some of the fire types pretty good against. Most of those Pokemon also don't want to take a wild charge to the face. So much like Typhlosion, where even in your bad matchups there are ways you can navigate games to a win condition, Magnazone has a similar play style where, yeah, you might know that their backmon is a Typhlosion. Well, Typhlosion doesn't like to take a wild charge, and so you can find a way to navigate the game to a state where potentially you can overcome that poor matchup, either with an extra shield or with a little bit of an energy lead. So I do think that playing around with the electric types here is pretty good, especially because I think really the only true consistent on most of the teams that you'll face on Go Battle Day is going to be Walrein. All right, that's going to wrap up our brief look at some of the interesting core breakers and mons you could try out this weekend during Go Battle Day. I just want to leave you with this sort of message and this mentality. Your goal with Pokemon Go PvP should be fun. This thing should be fun. If it's not fun, you shouldn't be doing it. Or at very least, when it gets frustrating, maybe take a little bit of a breather. Don't worry necessarily about having to finish all of your battles this weekend. Play as much as you like. If it's getting frustrating, if the game is in a state where you're not enjoying it, take a breather, have a little time, go have a snack, do something else, walk around and go try and catch a shiny Litleo. I still don't have one and I'm bitter about it. But anyway, try and have as much fun as you can. You're not going to lose out much if you simply play as much as you feel like and not try and min-max the whole thing, especially in Ultra League where sometimes these battles go really, really long. So I do hope you enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy this style of video. If you want more stuff like this, let me know in the comments. This is one of those things where I've been trying to find a way to do more videos that are less straight from our Twitch stream and more informational. So let me know what you want to know about. What would be helpful to you? And I will try my best to record some of those videos for you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Cheers.